Here in Minnesota, February is onions and celery seeds starting. We need to use clean, sanitized seedling trays. You want warm water with a little bit of dish soap. Rinse the trays. Set them aside. Spray them with 3% hydrogen peroxide. Spray directly onto the trays. Let them sit for 10 minutes. Then submerge them in new, clean water for a rinse. Then air dry. That is going to kill any mold, fungus, diseases that could be carrying over into next year's garden. Adding our growing medium, today I'm using Fox Farm potting soil, 80% of that in a bin with 20% worm castings. I'm adding water till I get this kind of consistency. If it's too runny, add more soil. If it's too dry, add more water. Now I'm going to fill my seed starting tray with the soil blend that we created. I'm using a 72 cell plug tray here. It's specifically an air prune propagation tray, and it sits inside a 1020 shallow tray with no holes. So you can see as I'm filling, there's little sections where the dirt falls through, and then there's those sections where it holds the soil, but there is a hole at the bottom to help remove the seedling when it is big enough. I would like good seed to soil contact, so I am spraying the surface. Even though I've moistened the soil, I'm spraying the surface to make sure it is good enough for that seed. Always label what you're doing. I am using a piece of painter's tape and a black Sharpie, and I'm writing on there Utah tall celery. You can write the date if you want, but I need to label the tray so I know what's in it. Now I'm going to assume I'm not going to get 72 celery starts out of this. This is Utah tall celery. The seeds are really tiny. If I see cells that don't have a seedling in them in 14 days, I'm going to reseed. And I do want a lot of celery, but I really don't think I'm going to get 72 because I've had plantings completely disappear once they get out in the garden. I've had things get shocked because maybe I didn't harden it off correctly. So my goal is to get 1 seed per cell here, but I will have 2 or 3 just because of how tiny they are and the error that happens. What I can do is just gently tease the seedlings apart and transplant them away from each other so they have time to grow. So how to sow celery? They need light to germinate. They need moisture to keep from drying out. They need some warmth, 60 degrees Fahrenheit to germinate, and this can take up to 3 weeks. So like I said, I'm going to check them after 14 days and see who's popped up or not. And some of these cells, I might not have filled enough dirt in, it might not be packed enough, it might have dried out. So we're just going to problem solve as we go for my Utah tall celery. I'm using an indoor growing space that has grow lights and a fan, and I use sticky traps to catch gnats. And I actually feel like I made a mistake here. I'll show you later. I'm going to show you the temp it currently is in this area. I do have this thermometer. It's reading 72 with 28% humidity. I also have a soil thermometer that I actually use in the spring to test when I should plant things. That's what it looks like from Urban Worm. Now I'm going to fill my 5x5 trays. All of the trays I'm showing today are from Bootstrap Farmer. These trays are to start my onions. I am doing Yellow of Parma and Rosa de Milano for my red onion. These are what the onion seeds look like. In my area, I have to grow long day onions. If you're in the United States, you can Google what type of onions I need to grow. There's going to be a map. It's going to show you long day, intermediate day, and short day. I am going to broadcast the seeds into the tray. They can grow close together, no problem. We need 70 degrees to 75 degrees Fahrenheit warmth for these to germinate. What's going to happen is after a few weeks later, we're going to need to trim them. We're going to see green growth. Once they are 8 inches tall, I'm going to use a scissors and cut the top growth off so the height is at 5 inches. Then I'm going to take 1 ounce of fish fertilizer to 1 gallon of water and fertilize after trimming by using the bottom watering method. Again, don't forget to label your trays. I am planting 2 different types of onions here. I need to keep track of which one is which. Follow along for more to see how we're going to get these onions out into the garden. So next I'm going to show a change I made. I felt like these were not close enough to the light, and I can't move my lights in the setup that I have currently. So what I did was I flipped a tray upside down and I stacked it so they would be closer to the light. Here we can see a celery has germinated and the onion has germinated. We have success. Here is an example of how to bottom water. I remove one of the trays or lift up the plugs. I add my water to the bottom. The tray that catches it, the tray that doesn't have holes, the 10-20 tray. I put the seedling tray back. And again, that is how we are starting our onions, Yellow of Parma, Rosa de Milano, our celery, Utah Tall, for February. Let's plan your garden together. We have a live stream called Garden Planning Checklist. I also have a downloadable PDF on my website, Shawnee Grows, that helps you answer some of the questions. Questions like, why do you want a garden? What companion plants and pollinator plants do you want? As well as a free square foot garden planting guide. Remember to give us a thumbs up, subscribe so you know when we're doing lives where we can do garden chatting and discussions, and stay tuned for updates.